Hello, everyone. My name is Shreya, and if you're here live, thank you so much for joining. And if you're watching this afterwards as a recording, then again, thank you so much for joining afterwards. I am the co-founder of Bit Project, which is a global student organization that is dedicated to making technical education accessible. And the biggest program that we are hosting right now is a serverless camp that happens annually, which is an 8-week coding boot camp where we help students get access to all sorts of awesome serverless educational resources as well as mentors from the industry. And this year, it's going to be our first year where we're opening it up to the public. So we already have around 250 students that are going to be participating publicly, which is very exciting, slightly nerve-wracking, but I'm really looking forward to it. And this video series is going to be a place for us to kind of jump into the Azure playground and start building some really cool projects, hopefully on a weekly basis, but as regularly as I can. And just learn about all of the different microservices that Azure has to offer and how you can use them as a student with the Student Azure free program. So you don't have to worry about not having access to credits or anything like that. But I do want to add, if you're participating in the serverless camp this summer, then you will have extra Azure credits if you need to. But without further ado, I do want to introduce some of our guests for today. Jonah is a very busy woman. She is an incredible engineer who has been our mentor since last year for the serverless camp, and she is also a software consultant.
My name is Jonah Anderson. I am currently in Sweden, and I work as a software developer consultant here in Sweden at Forefront Consulting. And outside my job, as Shreya said, I do a lot of community stuff. Like I lead Azure User Group Sweden community, and I'm also mentoring for serverless Bit project, for example, and I'm also busy writing my book about Azure and advocating or sharing a lot of content about it. So yes, and also I'm an MVP, Azure MVP. That's why I'm so active in the community, because I have that passion for everything for serverless and to help others and share knowledge. Yes.
Yes, I love that you're an Azure MVP. I love everything that MVPs do, and hopefully one day I will be too. And our second guest today is Christian Lexner. This is our first actual live stream together, so I'm really pumped about it. Christian is a first-time mentor for Bit Project, and he literally signed up and started mentoring us right off of the bat, and is going to be one of our mentors for Bit Project internally as our team, and kind of supporting the growth of our curriculum and improving our project management on the back end, and then also going to be a mentor for our 6 students this summer.
My name is Christian Lechner. I'm located in Germany, in Bavaria, in a small town called Hautzenberg. And I'm working for SAP, which is probably is the biggest non-US software engineering company. I'm working as a development architect in the area of the business technology platform, which is kind of a platform as a service offering from SAP. And besides that work that is more focused around Kubernetes, I'm quite happy with serverless. So I really love that. And I'm especially loving Azure Functions. So that's also why I'm supporting Bit Project. But before that, or how I came to that, was due to Mark Duca, that is also here, the creator of this shirt. Because I supported him in the Azure Functions University for the TypeScript lessons, and I'm still supporting it as far as time allows.
Before we get started with actually coding, could you tell us a little bit about some really cool ways in which you have seen Azure being used in projects by newer developers, since our audience is people that are new to coding or just new to serverless in general?
I can start because I have something actual that I can that relates to that question. I have a new colleague that's got started working as a .NET developer. It's his first time to learn .NET and C# and first time to learn Azure, because he came from a Java development background. So he was trying to learn Azure by hacking or programming C# with Azure. And that's with Philips Hue lights at home. smart lights, and he was trying to learn Azure Functions, and then I said you should try durable functions with that use case that you're trying to do with your disco lights at home and things. And then I was happy to see that as a beginner of that technology, he kind of like got it working with Azure Functions, and he loved serverless and continue working with that. So that's an example of how Azure Functions and serverless in general help new developers in learning quickly, because they don't need to worry about the infrastructure behind what's in Azure. They just get started with the logic and coding. So that's an example.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Christian.
How about you, Christian?
Yeah, absolutely second that. So we had a project some time ago where it was really about building a complete platform. And there was a big discussion because companies starting building platforms, they usually had to Kubernetes, which is super complex, has a lot of heavy lifting. It's powerful, but you pay a price for that, right? And I advocated to use Azure Functions. And yeah, let's see how this works out, all that stuff, if this really works. And it was incredible how fast developers that have never ever touched before Azure Functions got up to speed, developed APIs, made available business logic in really a fraction of time that they would have spent on Kubernetes. So no bashing of Kubernetes, it's a great platform, but the speed that you get, and as you said, Jonah, not wrapping your head around infrastructural stuff, that's just great. And that was a perfect example for me where this serverless and especially Azure Functions as a service offering pays perfectly off for developers, because that's the right level of abstraction to build your applications. And that was perfect. And of course, so they started with usual functions. And I guess I'm no longer part of the project, but I guess that they have now moved to durable functions, because that's just a natural way forward when you have to model workflows or something like that.
Yes, that's great. So developer productivity and also effectivity for users, new developers that are learning serverless. So that's a great story and use case that you have there.
Yep. Yeah, so absolutely like it. Yeah.
Awesome. So I have my visual code set up. The goal for today is for us to build a very basic HTTP trigger function that sends emails using a notifications API. And we're going to integrate cognitive services, customize those emails if possible. And then we also might try to integrate CosmosDB. Jonah, Christian, are you guys ready?
Yes.
You're ready, as you're doing the work, right?
Yes, you're doing the work. We're gonna do the work in the mind and pair program with you.
Awesome. So I will start by saying I think I have Azure Tools, the extension, not Azure account, Azure Tools already installed. But if you don't have Azure Tools installed, then make sure to start there. Quick question: are there any other Chrome extensions that we might need for this project before we get started? Chrome extension, VS Code extensions.
Usually, yeah. I mean, the REST client might be quite helpful from my perspective.
The REST client, yes. So
Yes.
let's try that. The REST client is actually something that I was not familiar with until Christian introduced me to it. So I'm really excited to kind of demonstrate how this works in a second. But yeah, if you don't have the REST client installed yet, then go ahead and do that as well. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So once you have Azure Tools installed, and Jonah and Christian, if I ever say anything wrong, please feel free to stop me and tell me what I said wrong. But hopefully this little Azure symbol will pop up, and worst case, if it doesn't pop up immediately, then you might want to restart your VS Code, because that used to happen to me a lot. When you restart it, it will show up. It will give you an option to sign into Azure. So if you don't already have an Azure account, that's the first step or the second step is to create an Azure account. There is an Azure for Students free kind of tier available, so you can get started there. And it should have enough credits for you to build some really simple basic projects. So let's go ahead and sign into Azure. I'm going to do this off screen, but in the meantime, Jonah and Christian, what were your first Azure projects that you can remember?
Oh, good question.
Yes.
I think it was a proof of concept for which was quite similar to what you tried to achieve. To be honest, it was scanning of documents via a mobile phone, and then were some documents that some material has been delivered at some gate for building a building, and then this receipt should be scanned. Then we would use cognitive services to extract the information, like which order number, which amount was delivered, what type of material was delivered, and then we would process. So we would call cognitive services for that, store the stuff in a CosmosDB, yes, exactly, and then return the extracted result to a downstream system, which is of course SAP, in order to make a special create a special document, which is an order fulfillment document, and push that into the ERP system. That was kind of, I think, the first touch point that I really had in a let's say real life scenario with Azure Functions. Yeah.
Yes. For me, my first touch or try with Azure Functions, it was when I was learning durable functions. So, and I use it a lot in my presentation, especially for the fundamental parts, because I'm a public speaker that really wants to introduce the technology to beginners. So what I did is that I shared my project where I used durable functions to kind of like notify the user or the admins when I upload an image to an Azure storage, for example, a blob. And then it kind of uses the function chaining pattern in .NET where I save that information about the blob that I want to save, for example, the URL to service bus queue. And then also when it's done, it's going to send a message to to the user through Twilio API, and then send an email through SendGrid API. So because I wanted to try out how it works with different Azure services and also the external services. And that was a pretty simple experience or example that I had with durable functions.
Can you guys still hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, we
fantastic.
can hear you.
I don't know what happened, but my other computer is refusing to work, so we're gonna have to pull up VS Code on this computer, which is fine. In the meantime, what languages are you guys usually coding in?
TypeScript.
For me, it's C# and .NET. So
Yeah,
yes.
awesome. Okay, well, I'm so sorry, but Jonah and Christian, one of you are gonna have to do the coding for today. Is that okay?
I vote for Christian.
That will be fun.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, then let's try it again.
Let's try this again. I feel like I need background music because this type of stuff happens so often.
Yeah, StreamYard actually has the background music now in the settings.
So let's go through the same process of just signing in. And in this case,
Whew, that will be fun. Oh, that will not work. No, that won't work because I'm on my working machine. Okay. And this will always try to sign me into with my credentials of SAP and not on my private one, which means that won't work. So we will have to do it locally mostly. Yeah. So
what do you mean that we're going to do this locally? What's the difference between VS Code and doing it locally?
So I will not deploy it to Azure, my function. So we will just stay on the local host, which is okay-ish for most of the stuff. I mean, we can do outward calls, so at least I hope so. Yeah. The only thing would be CosmosDB, which will not really work. I have CosmosDB emulator on it, but that's a little bit of a hassle to use that.
Yeah, we can just do a simple HTTP trigger function today and then do CosmosDB another time. I'm sorry, Jonah, I cut you off.
Yes, it's okay. No problem.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with a new project. Yeah.
Let's create a new project. How should we call it?
Um,
That's the folder. I'll take that one where I'm in.
Yes.
You wanted to do it in JavaScript, right?
Yes. Yes. It's your language. Yes.
We can do it in C#, but then I have GitHub Copilot on, so maybe I'm not completely lost, but
No, but it's okay.
curious.
JavaScript is also a language I'm also used to, so no problem.
That's good.
I love JavaScript.
Awesome. So how shall we call it?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Most difficult
let's just
challenge.
call it. Yeah, that's
Yes.
like a notification send or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. So could you actually tell us the difference between the anonymous function and those three options that just popped up?
Yeah. So let's shortly go into. Let's just do some dummy. So we have three options here for the authorization level. Anonymous basically means if you deploy the function to Azure, it will be reachable at an HTTP endpoint that is absolutely not secured. So anybody who knows the endpoint can call it and can, at the end of the day, cause you cost because the function is running. Function basically is should be the default from my perspective that secures the endpoint with an, let's say, API token. So you cannot call the endpoint without knowing that token. And if you have that token, then the Azure Function infrastructure will take care that this token is validated and only authenticated calls via this token can access the function. And to be honest, admin, I think, is a bit more extensive with respect to what you can do. But I have to be very honest, never used that. I don't know, Jonah, do you?
I haven't used it actually. Also, I have used function and a bit of anonymous sometimes, but I use the first two often.
Yeah. So
not admin, but we can check.
That's, I think, some special thing that you would not use in productive usage. And also, usually you wrap your functions with an API management in front of that also takes care of the authentication stuff. So that's just kind of a first line of defense to secure your function. That's what this authorization level states.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if I were building this project as part of like the Serverless camp, for example, and I wanted to share it with just my mentors or something like that, would I go down the function path and just share the API key or endpoint and the key with them?
Yep.
Got it.
Yes.
Awesome.
For local development, it doesn't make any difference. So you can always call the function locally without any authentication. But if you deploy it to Azure, you have to have the key.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not a one-way street. So you have here this. Where is it? The screen resolution is really huge for me. You can change the authentication level per function.
Yeah.
At any point in time.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's good to know that it's not like a preset thing that you can't change. It's something you can easily edit afterwards.
It's not carved in stone. Yeah.
Beautiful. So we have a bunch of files on the side, and which is the file that we're actually going to be coding in?
So what this thing creates, so this is something that we definitely do not need, is, as you said, some scaffolded structure. So for those of you who know JavaScript or TypeScript, you have the package.json file, which contains the metadata of the project. It gives you some hints around scripts. They are especially useful if you do TypeScript, because then they do the transpiling, and of course you have the dependencies and def dependencies in there, so no rocket science there. There is one specific file for functions that is configuration. with some defaulted configuration with respect to when you deploy it to Azure. And let's forget about that one at a first glance. So this extension bundle, which is an advanced mechanism for bringing in extensions like bindings. And then where the magic happens is this folder that is called like we called our function. That's the notification sender. And for JavaScript and TypeScript and Python, I'm not sure about PowerShell, you have basically always two files in there. One is the function.json file, and one is an index.js file or an index.ts file or a init.py file for Python, which contains the application logic. So you have the separation of configuration and application logic within your function, which makes sense from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it makes it a lot easier to kind of understand what's happening and only focus on the aspects of the code that you really need to focus on when you're developing.
Exactly.
So let's hop into index.js and see what this boilerplate code has for us. Jonah, would you mind walking us through this code right now and kind of guiding us through what each of these lines mean and how to use them?
Yeah, sure. This is a JavaScript, so I code more C#. But basically, it's like when you trigger the function through HTTP request, for example, then you have you have the context and the request. And in here, we're just for example, line of 2, we're just logging what's happening. Like we have triggered the function with HTTP trigger through the request, and then we're saving in line 4. We are saving the query name and the body name as a variable or a const, and then we're just basically getting the response message depending on the result of that. Hello, saying that it was successful. And we're also adding the context response in the body. So that's what's happening. I tried my best there to explain in JavaScript.
That's perfect. Yeah. Yes. I have a quick question.
Right.
Yes.
For line 4 over there, where it says const name is either query name or it's something from the body. Is that query something that comes from the parameters, or where is that query.name coming from?
Yeah, you have two options to transfer data into your HTTP triggered function. One is the query parameters that you pass via the URL, and that's stored within this predefined request file under query, and then you say which is, well, it's JavaScript, so it's you assume that the query parameter is name. And if the query parameter is name, you fetch the value here and transfer it to your local variable called name. Now you have a second option to transfer information, and that's the body of the HTTP request. And what you basically do here is, if there is no query parameter that's called name, then you say, hey, is there a body transferred with the request? And is there within the body an attribute that's called name as a key? Then you transfer the value to the constant name. So this is kind of the super safeguarded way to transfer the information wherever it is, be it in the query string or be it in the body.
Yes.
Usually in real life, you would say, hey, if you have a, let's say, GET request, then transfer this one via the query, as long as it's not a sensitive information or something like that.
Yes.
So you would not react on the body. At least that's how I would do it. I don't know, Jonah, would you do the same when you do? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's JavaScript or .NET.
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, like as you explained it like correctly about the request and query name. So it's like when you run your functions, to those that are beginners in this, doesn't matter if it's JavaScript or C#. So when you run your functions, you get the link, which is the name of the folder that we saw on the, earlier, and then you can actually like a question mark and then the name equals to, for example, Jonah Anderson. So that's when you trigger it and when this function is called. So the const name will be like my string, like Jonah Anderson, the one that I passed in. So I would definitely use the same way as well in C#. It depends on what we're passing or what type of data that we're working on as well. It can be a JSON file or a big file.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. So I think right now we don't have to worry too much about passing any data or anything like that. But what we do want to try to figure out is how can we use this function to make post requests with Courier. So Courier is a product notifications API, which we're trying to use to send out emails at this point. You can use it to send out push notifications, SMS, DMs, anything like that. But we'll start with email since that's pretty easy to set up. Christian, would you actually mind pulling up app.courier.com on like a Google Chrome or something on the side? And we'll just get set up with everything so we can get the API key from there. Awesome.
So what was the address?
So app.courier.com. And I think it will automatically take you to the onboarding process if this is the first time that you're creating an account.
Oh, so I have to create an account.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll also create one. And it's my first time actually to use. Oh, my dog is barking. Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. I'm so glad that he's able to join
I
us
have
at least
to
through his voice.
log into your account? No, I don't want to log in. I want to sign up.
I think if you put in a new email, it should direct you through the sign up
Let's
process.
shortly see. Let's put that one over here.
Look, we have a visitor.
Oh, no.
He was barking and then he wanted to come here.
Okay.
Is he chewing on a toy right now?
No, a goodies, like a treat. I have something on my table. I hope he doesn't start typing on my keyboard because it's going to disconnect me.
He's like, oh, HTTP trigger functions. I know how to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. So we got through the sign up process.
Is it free to sign up? To this Courier account? Sure.
Yes, it is free, and you get the first 10,000 notifications are free. So I haven't even reached a fraction of that yet.
So we will go for email, you said, right?
Yes, let's go for email. That's the easiest one. I think Gmail is probably the easiest one to set up with. Yeah, let's do Node.js.
So we did Node.js. Fastest way.
Yes.
Okay. Sign in with Google.
Yes. So you can use any provider if you're more familiar with like SendGrid or Mailgun, you can do that too. But Gmail is super easy because you just have to sign in with Gmail. For any other provider, you would have to like sign in separately, get the API keys, integrate it into Courier, and basically give Courier permission to use that provider to send notifications.
Okay, so let's see what happens here.
I'm signing up as well here, and I noticed that it's asking me, tell us about your stock, Node.js, PHP, Go, Python, Java, and Ruby. Is there C#?
I think there is a C#. It might not be specifically in the onboarding process.
Right.
I would just start with whichever Node.js or something for now.
Okay.
And then you can use a C# code snippets when you're working with like actual larger projects.
Okay.
So are you using PowerShell, Christian?
One moment. I'm just stuck brain-wise with in another window.
Now it's
That
Shreya
does
that's
happen.
Now that happens what we said. Yeah, that's
it's like revenge.
yeah, I'm using, and I didn't even start, right? So
Yeah, not
it's a revenge for nothing.
Shreya planned
So
it.
I think I signed
It
up.
was all part of my evil plan. What
I
happened?
think I signed up, but I don't know if I signed up.
Open PowerShell.
Run the Open PowerShell. You can find it. Okay. Yeah,
I'm using Windows. Okay, so you need to.
Yeah.
Open
So if you're
PowerShell.
using a Mac or like an Apple computer, then you can open up Terminal and just use the curl code. And if you're using Windows, this is something I just recently learned. Like I didn't know that PowerShell was the equivalent of curl. Also, I love how colorful your is that the terminal? What is that?
Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
So pretty.
Yes. Did you install something in that?
Yeah. It's on my Posh.
Okay.
So Jan the Dobler did his work here, so you have all the information that you need to have.
Yes.
But I don't have the information. Open PowerShell. You can find. Yeah, I found PowerShell. Run the PowerShell command. Paste the code into PowerShell and hit enter.
Yeah, so you just want to copy that little snippet. It should already have your authentication key, and then
Copy
go
this.
ahead and
Okay.
use that.
That's
Yeah.
not super intuitive, but paste
That's
anyway.
great feedback. I will let our team know.
I don't think that this will work.
Oh, it did work. You got a request ID back, right?
I got a request ID back. Yeah.
Perfect. And then you'll get a dancing pigeon on your screen. Hopefully. Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome. So you get your first notification. Now we're actually gonna try to get into more of like how to send a notification with Azure. I think right now the main thing you'll need is your API key, but I don't think you need that immediately, do you?
Not at the very moment. So first of all, I have to find the right window.
Finding the right window during a stream is the hardest thing. It's everything just disappears right when you need it.
Yeah, that's right. Especially I don't see you anymore. Where are you?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Or just voices in the back of your head.
Here you are. Yeah.
You got this.
These faces, that's not good. Okay.
You can use the tab, maybe. The tab you're looking for.
So now we have this. I'm at my notification dashboard.
Yes.
And I have.
What are you trying to find?
So that's a good question. What should I see now? I would expect something like creating an app or something like that to get the API key.
Oh, to get the API key, at the very bottom left of the screen, you'll see a little gear icon.
Okay.
Yes. And then
okay.
API
And here we
keys.
are,
Yes.
the API
Go
keys.
ahead and copy the production key published.
The production key.
Okay. I'm also following through, so I'm learning with how to use Courier. With this.
Beautiful.
So
Jonah,
then-
were you able to get through the onboarding process then?
Yeah, I got. I had a hard time finding my PowerShell, but I got the request ID. So now I'm
Awesome.
following
You got the
through. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So Christian's doing something really smart right now. Instead of pasting his API key directly into the code itself, he's saving it as like an environment variable, which in this case, could you tell us how to do that in Azure?
So usually when you deploy the function, you have something called app settings where you store the configuration of your function. Usually when you have secrets or something like that, you use something like Azure Key Vault to secure them. And you can then reference them within the app settings of your function project. Mm-hmm. And then they can be consumed from within your function. Now, when you do things locally, the Azure Functions create or the Azure Function extension scaffolds this local settings.json file, which creates you something similar that you can use locally. So, for example, I can here define a string for the Azure storage account, or I can set it here to use my local storage emulator. I can define the function workers runtime. I can do several further configurations for my function runtime. And of course, I can bring in my own values there, like an API key, and I have them then available within my function as an environment variable.
Awesome.
Yes.
So that's the preferred way to go. You can also fetch the app settings from Azure into your local settings.json file. So that's also possible. There's the Func CLI. So you have the when you install the Azure Function Core tools on your machine, you have a CLI for functions, and that allows you to scaffold functions, that allows you to interact with Azure. And one thing is you can fetch the app settings and store them locally.
Okay, perfect. So now we're in a pretty good place. We have this boilerplate code of how to do. Is this like a general post request with HTTP trigger functions? Is that what this is?
Yeah, usually I would now say, okay, I do a post request.
Okay, awesome. We don't need get over here.
We don't need a get.
And we have our API key from Courier. So we're authenticated. Now we just have to get in the actual SDK for Courier so that this application has all of the code that it needs to be able to make that request. Oh, perfect. You brought in the API key as well. So let's pull up a terminal and actually install the Courier SDK.
Okay.
And it is a quick npm command, which is npm install. And I'm going to paste it in the comments on StreamYard. Did you write it? It's npm install at try_courier/courier.
At try. Slash or?
Yes, slash.
Okay, let's see.
And then what you might also want to do, Christian and Jonah, is pull up the Courier doc, so courier.com/docs, and we can quickly go over, there's like a Node.js quick start that has all of the code that you'll need for the rest of this API call.
Let's check where I have it. There we go. Can I reach the documentation from here? Let's see.
Yeah, I think that should be it.
Yeah.
Home. Good evening.
I think that little icon at the top right
that
that
one?
you were at the top right, the little paper icon might have been it.
Docs, here we go. Open a new tab. So. Da-da-da. Quick starts, probably. Get started with Node.js.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, da-da, we have that. Good.
It's down the other side.
That's good then.
So you can go ahead and copy this entire code snippet, and then we'll work it piece by piece into our code.
Makes sense. So I will copy that one. Down below, we will do.
So we're going to have to change this import statement into a require, because I think import's not going to work over here. So actually, let's do const instead of require over here. So const courier client. And then,
okay, so that's what we want here.
Yes. We might still need the curly braces over there.
We just want to import the client, right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. We want to import the client, require, and
is
then
equal.
I think we need that one, right? No?
Yes. Yeah. And then just brackets around the quotation marks.
Yeah, sure. That looks like we have it now.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
API.
We have.
What happened? Shreya went away.
I'm here. I have a runny nose, so
Okay.
I just took
understand.
my camera off the screen.
I thought we lost you.
Imagine if I just
It's
left
you
it like
that's gonna guide us how to code this. You're the courier expert.
So then we have to get the
Courier.
client.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That
the
makes
token.
sense. And here we hand over our API key.
Perfect. Jonah, were you able to reach this stage? Were you able to install the SDK?
No, because I was thinking I should focus on our code together instead of checking on the other screen.
All pressure on me, I see.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can save this in a repo and then we can develop it together.
Yes. Perfect. And
Okay.
then we have the rest of the code at the bottom.
Yes.
Then we have this one.
Replace the JSON. I'm also checking the documentation about the main properties of
Yes.
the notification.
Yes. So this is actually an API call from our second version, API v2. And the cool thing about this is like, you no longer need access to actually like a full-on designer to build an email. So you can just put in your recipient's email. Within the content object, you can write title, which is going to be the subject of your email, and body, which is whatever is within the body of your email itself. And then if you have any variables within your body, so like the name of the person that you're sending it to and you want to personalize that, you can add that in. And then in routing, that's just the type of message that you're sending. So interesting change that you just made there, Christian. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why you decided to change name and make it into an actual variable even for the data?
Yeah.
So as far as we have set up our function, we get the name. Let's just say we get it from the body. And that's what we get from the outside, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
now within the content, as well as in the data, whatever that is, I want to use exactly that name that I get from the request.
Perfect.
So that's at least my idea, but I'm not quite sure. So this is the content of the email, I guess, right?
Yes, content is literally what goes inside the email. The data is like anything that you're referencing in content will come from data. So the name that you have in content will come from there. I'm actually not sure if we need data here. It's definitely not a requirement, but we can actually, we can comment it out and see if it works.
Let's put it away and see if it works.
I have a random question about this courier feature for sending emails. Is there a way or a property in courier that you can choose if you want a normal text email or an HTML type of email?
Yes. So Courier has a designer where you can actually make like a very fancy email or any type of message that you want to send out. And the purpose of that is like normally developers don't want to be the ones that are designing the email. So it's like a lot of drag and drop features, but you can also go into the HTML and like actually code out the email if you want to.
Yeah. That's great.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's go ahead and just see what happens if we send this message.
No, let's do a bit more.
Let's do a bit more. Okay.
Yes,
so let's
it's simple.
It's like this is not enough.
So at least we want to get a reasonable response message.
Yes.
GitHub Copilot, you just have to love it. Send message with request ID. To name, yes, that's right. And then we say, yep, So that's anyway okay. Does this look good?
Oh, we might have to change the email that we're actually sending it
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
You can put my email.
Okay.
Yeah. You can put Shreya@courier.com.
That's right.
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay. So we have our courier client. We say, let's call courier. We fetch our API key.
Okay.
We fetch the client. We fetch the name from the request, and then we let courier do all the work. And then let's be a bit more chatty. Let's also put that onto the console. Yeah, that looks not too shabby, right?
Beautiful.
So now the fun starts. Now this will make the resolution explode. So now all that we have to do is func start, which will spin up the Azure Functions runtime via the Azure Function core tools, which is exactly the same thing that's running in the cloud.
Okay, perfect. So this is basically, is it like enabling our function to work? Is that what it is?
This is basically spinning up the environment where our function can live and grow and thrive.
Yeah.
Obviously it's in .NET. And what you get here back is all the functions that are available within your function project. So this can be more than one. Will be listed here with the corresponding endpoint and the way how you are allowed to call it.
Gotcha. So we have a local host.
So we have this local host URL, which is the typical one.
Yes.
Then we create a little request file, which makes use of the HTTP of the HTTP of the REST client.
Yes.
So we say post. We say this one. Then we have to.
I just want to clarify what Christian's doing right now is the equivalent of using something like Postman or Insomnia to make
Okay, all right. That's new because I usually use Postman when I do my requests. It's good that we could do that. So I'm learning as well from you, Christian.
So now I'm just not sure. I think we have to. No.
Can you do this request.http also, Christian, in C#? Do you know, or it's just on JavaScript?
You can do that in any.
Okay.
Anything. So the request. So this REST client is just a basic client that allows you to send requests. No matter how the function is served, it just sends a request to this endpoint.
Awesome. I think the cool thing about this is that you can actually add multiple endpoints, right? You can make as many requests as you want to.
Right.
I can do another one. Name is
perfect. Oh, cool. You could, change up the data.
So that's all possible. So you can really build some minimal test suites if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's really
Now let's see if that works. Internal server error, probably because I forgot something, right? Error courier auth token is required.
Auth token. Auth token.
Let's check. I think that's the problem.
Okay, just a little syntax issue, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's an array, if I'm not completely mistaken, and it doesn't like the dereferencing via points, but not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Let's check. Nope, that wasn't it.
Okay, let's see.
Is this different one? Exceptional executing. Courier auth token is required.
So it's not reading. It's not accepting the token from the local settings.
Yeah, seems so. But what we can do, of course, is debug. So it's just pressing F5.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course it doesn't take it. Oh, mate.
Oh, we named
Sure, it's API key, but
No, I see. We saw it right away. I saw it right away. It was not matching. Yeah, like tiny mistake like that happens.
Yeah.
Also to me. It's good to see double check.
especially when you're doing live and somebody's watching.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're sure
Yeah.
you forget the simplest things. But now I want to debug. Now I want to see it.
Yes.
So you just have to press F5. You already get a pre-configured debugging environment, so you do not have to mingle around with the launch.json. So you have everything there, and if you have a reasonable screen resolution, it makes sense. So let's do. Now I lost the request. Let's send it. So. And now we can walk through. So now the API key should be there.
Yes, it's
Here we go. We fetch the client. We fetch the name, hopefully. Yep.
Yes.
Ha!
Yes, sent the message.
Perfect.
It sent the message. So we have now.
Yes. Did you get an email?
Yeah.
Did you get an
I
email?
should have let me. Yeah, I got it from Christian. It says, "Thanks for signing up, Christian."
Congrats.
We also saw it here. Let's call courier. Send message with request ID to Christian.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
So the context.log does also print in the console.
Yeah.
Or this is because we did func start, so this is technically the Azure.
Yep. So for the local execution, it's forwarding it to the standard out. And for within Azure, it's starting the mechanics to put it in the right place. Let's say it that way, to log it within the environment. Now, what is an issue when you start, or what might be confusing is, you do a console.log and it appears down here. But then when you deploy it, it might not appear. So always use context.log and not console.log when you implement it. And you also have options, so you can also do different log levels there. So you can log an error, you can log a warning, and so on. That will then display differently.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, so we are a little bit over our streaming time because I had technical difficulties. But what I do want to do next time we pop into stream is try to integrate cognitive services. I do want to build some sort of like playlist mechanism with Spotify API. So we'll try doing something similar to that. And then using the Courier API to send you like a text message or something. We'll change up the API call. And then eventually we will hopefully get a chance to integrate CosmosDB. And by then we have our my Mac issues resolved, so we can actually use CosmosDB next time. But thank you so much for helping me get started with this project, Christian and Jonah.
Next time I will be prepared to also log into Azure, but that's if you have a corporate IT, it's always fun because it directs you in directions you don't want to go.
Yes. Yeah, I understand. I learned a lot also from Christians, that especially the HTTP, that I didn't know you could do that like in your own project. Yes, it was good.
It's really cool. So it's VS Code market. I do not share, right?
Yeah, no, you're not sharing.
You're not sharing. You're not sharing.
2 years into the pandemic, and
Yes.
we still do those things, right?
Yes. But
Um,
the stream went well, Shreya, in spite of the technical difficulties that you had.
Yeah.
It went with the flow.
Yeah.
Yes. And you're happy now, and that's sad.
Yeah. That was really fun.
so
Christian, should I add it to the stream, your screen?
Yeah, that one.
so
Yes.
that's it. That's the REST client that's available for Visual Studio Code. It's really just installing it, and you can do everything that you can do with Postman, especially with I think it's Newman is the CLI that you can do for Postman. You have a lot of environment variables that you can use, as you can see here. So you see my screen now, right?
Okay. Yeah, we see
Okay.
that. Yes.
So for example, creating a GUI or something like that, that's built into that one. And you can do a lot of magic there, especially when working with durable functions, where you
Yeah,
have
okay.
this asynchronous mode where you get back the URLs that you have to query, and you can then fetch them from the response and put them into the next request without any manual interference. So that's
Yes.
super helpful.
Yeah, this is great.
Cool.
I like it was like the inception. Yeah, Mike. What I love the project that we did together with Courier, and also my key takeaway was that the REST client extension in VS Code. I never tried it, so thank you so much for sharing about it, Christian. So I'll try it in my functions projects from now on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What's
I
also
love it
cool
when
is
you
you have
remind me
the,
of things
the, the HTTP files with your code, so you can put it into Git. That's
Yes,
cool.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
It's a lot quicker instead of having to kind of like juggle a bunch of different applications. Everything's just in one place. It's neater,
Yeah.
easier to use. This is actually the first video or stream in our series of just like building fun Azure projects. So we got started today with building a very basic Azure project with the HTTP trigger function that sends a post request to send an email. And then over the course of this week, we will continue developing it and build it into like some sort of really cool project, hopefully. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, everyone. And Jonah and Christian, thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully I can have you again on the stream. But I learned so much from both of you, so I'm really glad that you could join.
Yes, you're welcome. It's great to be part of your session today.
Yeah, thanks a ton.
Yes, and nice to
Awesome.
meet you, Christian.
Yeah,
Yes,
nice to meet you too. On at least
live.
see me physical way. Yeah,
Yeah, well, moving, not just recorded video. Yes.
exactly.
I'm excited to continue building this project. I'm going to end the broadcast now, but it was nice to have you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.